Hello, welcome to the Manasplained podcast. I'm Connor. Today I'll be talking about the deck I built for Livonya Silone. I think that's how you pronounce that. So Livonya costs 6 mana for a 4/4 with first strike and legendary landwalk. So how legendary landwalk works is if one of your opponents controls a legendary land, you may attack that player and Livonya cannot be blocked. And that's a really interesting mechanic. You don't really see that much. Landwalk abilities tend to be printed less and less as time goes on, because Landwalk is super broken. Just basically being able to have free attacks like that, it's very powerful, and because it's focused on what lands your opponents have, they don't usually have a lot of ways to interact with getting those lands off the field or like swapping those lands out for another land, so you'll basically just have like free attacks for the rest of the game. So because of that, they're, like I said, not printed very often. And this being a 6 mana 4/4, the rate's already really bad. So, and in addition to that, how can you be sure your opponent's going to have a legendary land to get the free attack in? So that's how I decided to build the deck around. I build the deck around giving your opponents legendary lands that you control to make sure that they'll have one, so then you can get the free attack in with Livonya. I really think it's a very interesting deck. I think it's a very cool strategy, and I can't wait to show you it. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps grow the channel, and it really helps get these videos to more people, and gets more people to comment on these videos, which is my favorite part of making these. So yeah, and let's jump into the deck. So for the deck breakdown, I have 4 theme cards, 20 sub-theme cards, 5 tutors, 5 protection, and 6 synergy. There's only 4 theme cards because there's not a lot of ways to give your lands to your opponents, so that's why there are 4 theme cards that way. The sub-theme is making Livonya deal more damage, double strike, increasing her power and all that stuff so that you can get good damage in. Tutors for finding the theme cards and then the legendary lands. You will need protection cards because your commander just having unblockable like this, your people are going to try to kill her, so you need to protect her in some ways, and then I'll get to those synergy cards later. So in addition to that, I have 9 draw, 15 ramp, 10 removal, 1 board wipe, and 36 lands. So I'm really happy with the ramp, being able, like 15 is a lot, you'll be able to get a bunch of it consistently, which is great. The 10 removal, this deck is going to be pretty removal-y because people might have some stuff that they're going to hit you with because you're going to be attacking them, because you're going to give one person a land and they're going to be attacking them with your commander. Like, you're not going to really be sharing the love around that way. So because of that, you're going to need removal for the stuff that player is going to be attacking you or pointing at you, which is a big problem. 15, like I said, the 15 ramp cards, again, your commander does cost 6, and it's 2 red and 2 green, so it's a little difficult to get the colors you need, so the ramp's important that way. And then only 9 card draw. With going wide as a pretty prominent strategy for green card draw with stuff like Shamanic Revelation, or Shamanic Revelation, or Toski Bearer of Secrets, and Oron Frostfang, those cards that care about having a ton of creatures or dealing combat damage with a bunch of different creatures. Since we're not doing that strategy, we do lose access to that card draw, so it makes the pool a little bit smaller, but at the same time there are still some good card draw spells because our commander already has 4 power, and we're going to be buffing her up to get her higher power than that, which makes the card draw even more useful in that way. All in all, that's 10 crossover cards. I am so happy. Like I've said before, 10 is the number I try to get to with all of my decks, and the fact that I was able to reach it here is really great. I'm super happy about that. So for the theme, I'm surprised that I was able to find 4 cards. They were able to give away a legendary land to one of my opponents. I just wish I could have had more than 4, but I'll go over what they are now. So Bizarre Trader and Harmless Offering just let you give one of your permanents to an opponent. Bizarre Trader is only artifact, creature, or land, while Harmless Offering can be any permanent, but Bizarre Trader can do it more than once, which is important, so you can give a legendary land to each of your opponents, and then unless they have ways of getting rid of those lands, you have free attacks for the rest of the game, which, like I've said before, is not super common. Gauntlets of Chaos costs 10 mana total, and you'll swap a land with one of your opponents. So you won't be down a land like you would with Bizarre Trader or Harmless Offering, but it still does cost 10 mana to just swap lands with opponents. And Gauntlets of Chaos get sacrificed, so it's only a one-time use, which is unfortunate. But yeah, you're gonna have to run into bad cards to do the thing you want to do when you do weird strategies like this. And then Song of the Dryads is very interesting. So Song of the Dryads, when you transform something with it, like when you if someone has their commander out and you target with Song of the Dryads, it turns into a colorless forest land, but it keeps its name in super types, so it's still legendary. So Song of the Dryads will give your opponent a legendary land if you target any legendary permanent with it. Most likely their commander, but you might not want to target their commander with it because they might be hell-bent on destroying the enchantment that way, or finding a way to destroy their commander some way, or the enchantment, whatever, something like that. But if you target something smaller, something a lot less important that's legendary, maybe like a planeswalker that they would care less about using a removal on an enchantment piece like that, then Song of the Dryads will just be able to give you that legendary land. It's crazy. I didn't know this interaction worked until building this deck, but that's very cool. So because we only have 4 theme cards in the deck, we are going to need to be able to tutor up both our legendary lands and the creatures and some cards to give away the lands. Unfortunately, green's not great at tutoring anything but creatures and lands, so it looks like we're going to be getting Bizarre Trader, and I'll show you how we'll get Bizarre Trader now. So the best tutor in this deck is Archdruid's Charm. It does cost 3 mana, but it's at instant speed, and you can search your library for a land or creature and put it into your hand. But if it's a land card, it goes onto the battlefield tapped, which is amazing. You can get any of your legendary lands put on battlefield tapped if you already have one of the cards in your hand to give away the legendary land. But if you don't have any of the cards to give away a legendary land in hand, you can then go find Bizarre Trader with it, and then tap Bizarre Trader to give the land away. This card's modality in this deck is phenomenal, and if you already have all those things you're trying to do, you could put a +1/+1 counter on your creature and hit something with damage with it, which is also super useful, or exile an artifact or enchantment. So this card has so many different effects on it. It is amazing. I really hope they complete the cycle at some point, because they had Archmage's Charm, now Archdruid's Charm. And yeah, this card is just so good. I love everything this card's doing. It's awesome. Here are some more ways to tutor up our Bizarre Trader. Imperial Recruiter, just for 3 mana, we'll put Bizarre Trader into our hand from our library, which is great. Then Uncage the Menagerie, we'll get, for 4 mana, we'll get to find 2 creatures with 2 mana value and put those into our hands. The other creature you're probably going to be getting most often is Goblin and Archomancer, because it makes all of your red and green spells cost 1 less to cast. So for 4 mana, getting Goblin and Archomancer and Bizarre Trader into your hand, then the turn after that being able to spend 3 mana, 1 for the Goblin and Archomancer and then 1 for the Bizarre Trader, just being able to throw them both out, is such great value. I love Uncage the Menagerie in this effect here. Like I've said before, I usually don't like tutors, but because we only have 4 theme cards, we're really going to need to be able to tutor them up. And then the last 2 land tutors I'm running to go find the legendary lands are Crop Rotation. Just for 1 green mana, we can swap out one of our lands for a legendary land, which after Crop Rotation and then trading it off with Bizarre Trader or Harmless Offering, we will be down 2 lands essentially. Kind of, we're kind of like getting rid of a land to get that land out and then giving that land away. So yeah, it's kind of slow, but you do need to make some sacrifices when trying to do a really dumb strategy like this. And then the other card is Pier's Whim. For 4 mana, we get to go find any land and put it onto the battlefield tapped. And then each opponent will sacrifice an artifact or enchantment, which is great. Pier's Whim is awesome. So Livonya is only 4 power, which, giving her unblockable is fantastic. But then that requires 6 hits to kill somebody with her, which is not very good. You likely want to get her to at least 8 or 12, because doing that would be a 3-hit KO or a 2-hit KO, which is so much better. So that's what I kind of built the deck around, trying to get to that point in the game where you could 3 or 2-hit KO somebody. So in no particular order, I kind of grouped them loosely together, but Dragon's Breath, Thunderous Might, Raised by Giants, and the Sound of Drums. All of these cards are enchantments that will buff your commander's damage. Dragon's Breath gives your commander Dragon Breathing, so you can pay a red, get +1/+0 until the end of turn. But Dragon Breath also gives your commander haste, and if Dragon Breath is in the graveyard, when your commander enters the battlefield, you can attach Dragon Breath from your graveyard onto Livonya, so that's super useful. Raised by Giants turns her from a 4/4 into a 10/10 for 6 mana, which is incredible. That's so powerful. That's more than double the damage. That's 2.5 times the damage, which is crazy. And then the Sound of Drums does goad your commander, so it will have to attack each turn, but your commander will deal double damage to your opponents, And you can also pay 2 and a red to return Sound of Drums. If your commander's going to die, you have some excess mana. You can save the Sound of Drums, then recast it later. And then Thunderous Might will give your commander +X/+O, where X is your devotion to red. And your commander already has 2 red, plus you're going to be having a couple other things out there that are enchantments or stuff like that. Like Thunderous Might will already give it +1. So Thunderous Might plus your commander already gets her to +7. Gets her to 7, not +7. Which means she's already a 3-hit KO. And then if you have more effects in there, that could potentially turn into a 2-hit KO. These are the damage doubling and tripling, just kind of state-based effects that go on your side of the board. They also bump up your red devotion, which is good for Thunderous Might. But Dictate of the Twin Gods, Gratuitous Violence, double the damage from your commander. They don't target, and they don't equip, they don't attach or enchant or anything like that. So you don't have to worry about doing that. And they're just kind of effects that affect your board, which is great. And Fiery Emancipation just triples the damage your commander does, which is crazy. And also, that art is so sick. These are some cards that will grow your commander. So Halana and Alana, they will give X 1/1 counters on a creature you control where X is their power at the beginning of combat. And if you have other ways like Unnatural Growth out, Halana and Alana will double to 4 and then put 4 1/1 counters on your commander, which is super useful. And then Xenagos, God of Revels, can give your commander +4/+4 until the end of turn. Base. But if you have other effects like Unnatural Growth and some other like increasing power, stuff like that, Xenagos just gets so much stronger as you keep bumping up power. These are some equipment that just give some flat buffs. Embercleave +1/+1 trample and double strike. Double strike being the important word there, which gets your commander to 10 damage. If you can get a little bit more on there with like a Hexplate or an Obsidian Battle Axe, you can get that to the 2-hit range. And a Hexplate Wallbreaker gives your commander an additional combat phase after this one, which is amazing. That's so good. That could potentially lead to someone getting 2-shot. Like killed in the turn you attack with your commander, because you get the 2 combats, get your commander to at least 11 power, they're dead, which is crazy. And the Obsidian Battle Axe, if it's out and your commander enters the battlefield, because Livonya is a warrior, Obsidian Battle Axe actually equips to her, so giving her the +2 to power, and also haste, which is, again, super useful. And then the last 2 equipment, these will bump up your power so insanely fast. Bloodforged Battle Axe will make copies of itself whenever your commander deals combat damage, so the first time you make a copy of Bloodforged Battle Axe, and then you can equip the copy, and then you'll make 2 copies, you equip those copies, you make 4 copies, and then you'll just have a horde of Bloodforged Battle Axes, which is super awesome. And then Bone Sabers will give your commander 4 +1/+1 counters whenever it attacks, which is wild. So that is it goes from 4 to 8 to 12, and then you're hitting twice and they're dead. So yeah, no, Bone Sabers and Bloodforged Battle Axe will give you such a crazy power boost to hopefully hit that 2-shot kill. And then these equipment are just good big power bumps. Blackblade Forge gives 1/+1 for each land you control. 2-handed axe, you can cast it as an instant to give your commander double strike, and then you can put it out as an equipment and equip it, and then whenever your equipped creature attacks, it'll double its power. Again, that's phenomenal. And then Belt of Giant Strength will cost 2 to play, and then will cost 6 to equip, but it will get your commander up to a 10/10. So 8 mana to turn the commander into a 10/10 is, I mean, that's worth it, because if you get +1/+1, that's 11. Then double strike or double damage, that's a kill. So yeah, Belt of Giant Strength, again, and all these cards here, so good for just getting your commander to high damage numbers. And then the last cards in the deck, I thought they'd be fun, includes Quietus Spike and Scytheclaw will both let your commander half your opponent's life total when you deal combat damage. Which, if you're unable to get lethal commander damage in for one reason or another, if you can hit with these a couple of times, you'll be able to get your opponent's life so low that other people could help chip in to kill each other or something like that. Yeah, so Scytheclaw and Quietus Spike will just help you get life totals low if people keep removing, or you're unable to get the damage doubling effects and stuff like that out to really pile on your commander damage. These will help just get everyone's life total to a point where just the straight damage from other effects on the board and stuff like that will kill them. So, for the synergy category, as I was putting this deck together, I realized a lot of these cards just had this in common, and so I decided, like, you know what? This could be the synergy category. It also makes the crossover numbers look a little bit better, so I did cheat a little bit there. But this is a good category to have when all the cards just kind of work out like this. And that is haste. So there's 6 cards in the deck that give haste. Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots, also giving protection, which is super nice. You do have to be careful with Lightning Greaves, though, because of the Shroud means your commander becomes untargetable. So you want to equip Lightning Greaves last, and then if you have any effects that target on combat or something, you'd have to be worrisome of that. But the protection is worth that, especially if you have some effects like a Fiery Emancipation out that don't target. Lightning Greaves becomes so much stronger, and if you get some equipment onto your commander first, the Shroud is not a big deal. And then the other haste cards, Dragon Breath, which, just like Obsidian Battle Axe, if Dragon Breath, like Obsidian Battle Axe, is on the battlefield, if Dragon Breath is in the graveyard, will auto-attach or enchant your commander, giving your commander haste, which is great. And then Halana, Lana, and Xenagos, when they target to bump your commander's power up, they will also give haste, which is just super useful and very awesome, and these cards are so good. So the player you're going to want to take out first varies on game to game, but it's weird, because you could either target the player with the least amount of removal in their deck to give them the legendary land, because then you're most likely to be able to kill them, but then you're giving your other opponents, the opponents that probably have more removal in their deck, longer to find that removal, so when you give them the lands, they'll be able to deal with all of your stuff. So you're probably going to want to try to go after the players with the most removal first to potentially stop. I don't know. It's a weird kind of area to be in, but because people are going to want to remove your commander on site once you give them a legendary land, you're going to need to protect her. So these are the protection spells I chose for this deck. So I already showed Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves. Everyone knows them and loves them. Classic commander staples. But also I added Champion's Helm here. Giving a power bump to your commander while giving hexproof is just great protection as well. Bear Umbra is interesting. Gives a power bump and totem armor. So if your commander would be destroyed, instead remove all damage from it and destroy the aura instead. So it gives your commander like an extra life, which is super interesting. And then Silent Arbiter. No more than one creature can attack each combat. This is to protect your life total. So you're only going to be attacking with one creature each combat because only one of your creatures matters because the legendary land walk. But this makes it so your opponents can only attack you with one creature each combat. And hopefully their creature they're going to be attacking you with is less deadly than yours. And this makes it so that Silent Arbiter will eat a removal spell if they want to attack you with more creatures before they're killing your commander, which is probably the wrong move to do because then you could just probably kill them with your commander on the next turn. So yeah, Silent Arbiter here. Great removal deterrent because they're going to want to target it, and if they don't remove it, it protects your life total. So green has great card draw, when you have creatures with big powers and big toughnesses, and also when you're attacking, and so I decided to go with that kind of card draw package for this deck. So all of these cards care about your combat damage drawing cards. Hunter's Insight and Hunter's Prowess both will draw you the amount of cards you deal combat damage. So these cards are great. Hunter's Prowess also gives +3/+3 until the end of turn, getting your commander to 7 before any other kind of effects that are out there. So that's at your commander being at 7. If you can get the power up, that's already 7 commander damage, you only need 14 more. That's great. And then you're going to draw a bunch of cards. Hopefully you'll be able to draw some more effects like a Fiery Emancipation and stuff like that. And then Mask of Memory, when your commander deals combat damage, draw 2, discard 1. Super useful. And if you happen to have Dragon Breath in your hand, you can discard that happily because it's going to come back to the battlefield equipped to your commander when your commander enters. And then Sixth Sense. Sixth Sense also a great card just for 1 mana. Whenever your creature deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So that's just 1 mana. It's essentially a cantrip for the first time your commander gets combat damage in, and then every turn after that, it's just gravy. So for the last 4 card draw spells here, Rishkar's Expertise and Soul's Majesty both care about your commander's power, which will draw you that many cards. So at base, that's 4, but with all the damage, the power doubling effects and power boosting effects, this is more than likely going to be way more than 4. This could be like 10, 11. Which is insane. That's so many cards. The Rishkar's Expertise also lets you cast something that costs 5 or less from your hand afterwards, so you could get out one of your effects like a Xenagos or something like that, which is just so crazy. Rishkar's Expertise is amazing. And then Harmonize, just 4 mana, draw 3 cards. I put it in almost every green deck. If the green deck is like 3 colors and none of those colors are black or blue, I will run Harmonize because it's just 4 mana for 3 cards. It's just good to replenish your hand. I just really like the card. And then Colossal Majesty. Your commander's base power is 4, and so this will act like a Phyrexian Arena without the life loss. So we're in green. Love green. Love green because we get land ramp. And because we're going to need a lot of lands because we're going to be giving away lands. So having the extra ramp in this deck was important. These are probably the 3 strongest ramp effects in the deck. Goblin or Archomancer, make all of your green and red stuff cost 1 less to cast, which is ridiculous. This is probably the strongest ramp spell I've ever played. yeah, the amount of mana this will save you over the, like, I've played, like, Goblin Archomancer has made or saved more mana for me over the course of a game than a Sol Ring has produced for me in most games that I've played it. Because if you're playing at least 2 spells a turn, it's making as much mana as Sol Ring. And that is so, like, that's not even that hard. And when you have cards like Shamanic, was it Rishkar's Expertise, Harmonize, stuff like that, stuff that are drawing you more cards, you're making those cheaper, so you're drawing into more cards, which you can cast more cards. Goblin Archomancer is insane. And then Bear Umbra, untapping all of your lands, it's pretty useful, but also the Totem Armor and the power bump's great. And then, of course, Sol Ring is busted. These are the 3 and 4 mana ramp spells. Cultivate Kadama's Reach, put a basic into play and a basic into your hand. So they're basically rampant growth plus they draw a card. And then Skyshroud Claim and Ranger's Path will find 2 forests and put them out. They get to find non-basic forests, so they get your color fixing you need because of all the different pips and all of these cards. These are all the 2 mana ramp spells in the deck. They all, some of them will go find basics, and in the north will find snow lands. So I do have snow basics in the deck and have the typed snow duel just for that reason. Into the north is great. And then Nature's Lore, 3 visits will go find you a forest card, put it onto the battlefield. It's great. Gets you find some duels in order to get the colors you need. And then Farseek will go find you a mountain, which will be a mountain forest more than likely. And then I showed them off in the tutor section, but both of these cards get to find you a land to put onto the battlefield. Something I didn't mention yet is, in addition to like finding you the legendary land, you could then tap the legendary land for mana and then use that mana to then give the land away, so you're not giving your opponent a free open mana. So for the removal, I do have 10 removal spells. They're super useful. Also, this is my dog Millie. Say hi, Millie. Over here. Say hi. Yes, I love you too. These are the 10 removal spells I put in the deck. Red-green has access to pretty good removal. Not a lot of permanent removal. There is like a couple cards, but it's mostly like artifact and enchantment. And then if you're trying to remove creatures, it's through like damage. But I'm still really happy with the removal package I put in this deck. So these are the 2 mana spells that will destroy artifacts and enchantments. Atraxa's Fall can also hit creatures with flying, which again can hit an Atraxa, which I've played against a lot. Can also hit a Kalia, Kalia the Vast, which is also our move on site commander. So love Atraxa's Fall. Hull Breach can hit 2 artifacts, or hit 1 artifact and 1 enchantment, so 2 mana, get rid of 2 things, which is crazy. Broken Bond, I didn't put this in the ramp category because sometimes you won't have a land in hand, and we're only running 36 lands, but the times you do have a land in hand, Broken Bond, also basically only costing 1 mana, is great. And then Return to Nature can also exile something from a graveyard, which I've actually had that come up, and it is super useful. These are the permanent removal. Beast Within will replace the thing you kill with or destroy with a 3/3 green beast creature token, which is great. You're not really going to care about the 3/3 because the damage they'd be able to deal with you with the 3/3 is going to be less, or going to be less card advantage or less whatever than the thing you're getting rid of, so you're fine about that. And then hopefully Chaos Warp doesn't bite you in the butt. A Braid, getting rid of an artifact or dealing 3 damage to target creature, just great modality on a card. It's very useful. Every time I play a Braid, I'm pretty happy with it. And then Lightning Bolt, dealing 3 damage to any creature. I just wanted to put it in here because it's just a good card. And with all of the damage doubling, and with a couple damage doubling and tripling effects you have in the deck here, like Firing Emancipation, this could deal 9, which is crazy. And then you saw these cards earlier. Pier's Whim's a tutor, and then Song of the Dryads can turn a legendary permanent into a legendary land, so your commander can get free attacks in. So I am running 1 board wipe in this deck, and that board wipe is Chandra's Ignition. So I showed this in the last video as well, but when you have a commander where you're going to be pumping the power of it up, and you're not really filling the board with really any other creatures that much, Chandra's Ignition is crazy. Also, you can just deal a crap ton of damage to your opponents. Say, like so much damage, which is super useful for just like trying to get their life totals low. Like I said before, if you're on, like for something like Quietus Spike and Scythe Claw, if you're unable to get the combat damage in for lethal, those kinds of cards can help you get their total low, and then something like Chandra's Ignition could finish them off. So for the lands, I am running a pretty weird land packet because we need a bunch of legendary lands because we're going to give some away. I am running a bunch of lands that I normally wouldn't run in any decks, which is fine. But I am running 1 land in particular that I can't believe I found and is very funny to give away. I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but the Cloud Keeper, this land, great. It'll pay for the 2 generic in your commander's cost, which will help you get your commander out 1 turn early, which is great. And then it's legendary, so you can give it away, which is super useful. Shivan Gorge and Care Keep have some red mana requiring abilities to activate, so you can give these away to players that don't have red in their deck, and then you're fine. They can't use them. And even Care Keep making 0/1s, one that's like 3 mana to make a 0/1, so if your opponent's already doing that, they're probably like already losing, because that is ridiculous. But at the same time, the 0/1s won't matter because your commander has unblockable. And then the bottom 3 lands here, the Grey Havens will add 1 mana among any color among legendary creatures in your graveyard, or make 1 colorless mana. So you would want to give this to an opponent who doesn't have like any creatures or a lot of creatures in their graveyard, potentially limiting the colored mana they can produce with it. And then Gallifrey Council Chamber can only make colored mana if you're casting a Time Lord or an alien spell. So if you're playing against someone who just doesn't have any Doctor Who cards in the deck, you're fine. And both of these cards have abilities that when they enter the battlefield will give you a benefit. So Greyhaven scries 1, Gallifrey Council Chamber surveils 1, which is just, it's great. That's so good because it gives you a little bit more of a benefit before you give the land away, and you don't have to worry about something like that. And then Paliano, the High City here, it does not produce land or mana. It does not produce mana because it only produces mana if you draft it. So putting into a constructed deck, it doesn't do anything, which is hilarious. So you can go find this legendary land and then give it away to one of your opponents, and then they just have a legendary land that doesn't produce any mana that gives you a free attack on them. Paliano, the High City, is probably the best card in this deck once you can give it away to an opponent, and I think that's hilarious. So when making the cuts for the maybes, I had a lot of tutors in here originally, but then I kind of realized I have a lot of legendary lands in the deck anyways, like 10 or 11 or something, and because of that, I won't need as many land tutors, but also I was running a lot of kind of expensive tutors for creatures because tutors are expensive, both either mana-wise or money-wise, and so I kind of wanted to narrow it down to a couple of tutors so that I basically have 7 theme cards in the deck. I have the 4 theme cards, and then 3 of the tutors can go find Bizarre Trader. So the maybes will be filled with a bunch of tutors that way. So I did cut Worldly Tutor. There's another 1 mana green tutor that also finds a creature that I cut. And then I also had to cut cards like Green Sun Zenith and stuff like that because they only found green creatures, which some of the tutors in green do only find green creatures, which is unfortunate. Elvish Reclaimer, Sylvan Scrying, and Template Discovery all find a legendary land. Elvish Reclaimer is a repeatable effect, unlike Crop Rotation or something like that, but I do have enough legendary lands, so I don't think something like that will be a problem, and I'm pretty sure if you remove somebody from the game, all of their permanents that they control that are yours come back to you under your control, I'm pretty sure. I forget if they get destroyed or if they get exiled, if they come back under your control. Someone please let me know down in the comments which one it is, but I'm pretty sure you just get them back. And then because of the commander damage and your commander having unblockable, I was thinking about running some of the Sword ofs, but none of the Sword ofs really, I don't know, they really spoke to me. Also, a lot of the Sword ofs that I would want to run either gave protection from red or from green, or both, like Sword of Forge and Frontier. And because of that, I do have a bunch of stuff that does target in these colors. And also, Pro means that I'm pretty sure if something gets protection from green or protection from red, and you had like a red or green enchantment on or an artifact or equipment on them, it would drop it off. So yeah, protection just unfortunately wasn't the play here. And then some other cards I cut. Ayumi the Last Visitor. This is a commander which I'm going to have to build at some point, and it's just a mono green version of this commander. It, fortunately, is only a 7/3, so you don't have to worry about having to get the commander up to be able to do lethal, because just 3 hits and they're dead. But the problem is, it's kind of hard to give away legendary lands in a mono green deck. You will have Gauntlets of Chaos and Song of the Dryad, but beyond that, I don't know, Chief. It's going to be kind of hard. And then City on Fire, Furnace of Wrath, Fiendish Duo. City on Fire and Fiendish Duo, just too expensive. And Fiendish Duo is also a creature, so it's likely to die or something like that. And Furnace of Wrath is effect for everybody, so you'll also take double damage, which in this deck I wasn't really looking forward to. And like I said before, City on Fire is just too expensive. And then Sepulchral Hunger Dominus, also too expensive for its effect, both for actually just in-game, like costing the mana, and I didn't want to spend the money on I wouldn't want to spend the money on a Zapandrel for that kind of effect. 7 mana just does seem like a bit much when you have the 5 mana enchantment version. Yes, this can sack 2 creatures to put an indestructible counter on it, but you're not running enough creatures where that would even come into play. So what do you think of the deck? I'm very happy with it. 2 Voltron decks back to back. Unfortunate, but that's what you get when you get a lot of creatures that have bad abilities and bad stat lines and high mana costs, and you got to figure something out. The next deck, I promise, won't be a Voltron deck. I promise. I don't know after that one, though. I haven't looked that far ahead. But, yeah, let me know what you think about this deck. Would you ever play this deck? Have you seen this card out in the wild? Anything like that? Let me know. These are all my socials. Twitter's where I post when these videos go live. I will eventually post on TikTok, and then I will eventually cross-post that and shorts I make on YouTube to Reddit. Don't know when that's going to happen, but I will eventually. And then Architect and Moxfield are where all of these deck lists live. So thanks for watching, and as always, get building, splainers. Alright, that is so